Hello, happy Red Friday. Hope you're all having a great weekend. Hope your Friday is going well. We have not done a Red Friday live chat in quite some time. I think maybe since Super Bowl week or maybe after the Super Bowl. So, been a while since we've had one of these now. Obviously, we're still in the off season. So we won't have too much to get into here. So this won't be as long as some of the live chats we had last year during the season, but a lot of things to get into still, and some important things to get into, and definitely worth talking about here on this episode of our Red Friday live chat. So if you guys are coming in to the live chat, I see you guys. Appreciate you guys joining me. If you guys can, please give this video a like and make sure you're following the page or you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, depending where you're watching from. If you haven't done so already, greatly helps out the page and the YouTube channel quite a bit. So please do that if you haven't done so already. Okay, I want to hear from you guys. So let me know what's on your mind. You guys want to talk some Chris Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, anyone else on the Chiefs roster right now, anything Chiefs related as we get closer and closer. It can be NFL related as well, too. Definitely let me know your thoughts on anything that is on your mind. Ask questions, comments, whatever. I want to hear from you guys. That's the big part of this discussion here. This live chat we're doing is not just my thoughts on things. I'll obviously elaborate and give my opinions on things that I think are important for the week. And then I'll definitely respond to you guys, read some of your guys' questions, and just go from there. We did this quite a lot last year. It was pretty good. We're in the off-season mode right now, so I know not as many people are going to be tuning in. So hopefully if we keep doing this into training camp and in the preseason and regular season, and hopefully the playoffs and the Super Bowl, then I'm sure we'll continue to get more and more people joining in. For now, we've got some people tuning in. I appreciate you guys hitting the like button. See a couple of comments already. Yeah, we'll definitely touch on those topics. I think the first topic I want to get into is the DeAndre Hopkins situation. I know in order for that to happen, the Chiefs need to work on Chris Jones' deal, and I'll get to that later. But the reason I want to start with DeAndre Hopkins first is because there has been some debate for quite some time, and this came up a little bit today on my Facebook and Twitter feeds. People are asking, do the Chiefs need DeAndre Hopkins? Do they have to bring him in here? I think here's the thing right now. When you look at the Chiefs roster, when you look at the betting odds right now in Vegas, the Chiefs are the betting favorites to win the Super Bowl right now without DeAndre Hopkins. So I think that begs the question of why would the Chiefs want to add DeAndre Hopkins? Well, let's look at the Chiefs receivers real quickly here, because I think we need to help put this into perspective to maybe explain why the Chiefs need DeAndre Hopkins. I think the Chiefs need him, so I'll explain why. Let's look at your receivers right now, and I'm looking at ourlads.com at their depth chart. My friend Dan Shanko runs that website. Shout out to him and his team. They do a great job with everything on the website with their depth chart. I use that quite a bit when looking at the Chiefs, looking at other teams. So for starting receivers, they have down Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Kadarius Toney. Okay, let's MVS, I think, is a guy, to me, he's a solid number 2 receiver. He was a solid number 2 in Green Bay. He wasn't the primary guy. That was obviously Devontae Adams when MVS was in Green Bay. And I mean, everyone knows about Adams. He's without question top 5 receiver in the NFL. And MVS was always that good receiver to help kind of provide depth on that team, and eventually got more and more reps over the years in Green Bay and came to Kansas City with a lot of turnover last year at the wide receiver position and served as a very solid number 2. And when Juju was out, stepped up and made some big plays for the Chiefs at times. So MVS, you know, you've got a solid contributor there. Is he someone who can step up and be that number 1 wide receiver from week 1 all the way into February in the Super Bowl? I don't know if I can say that with certainty. Kadarius Toney, there's been some talk all off season long that this guy might be Kansas City's number one receiver. And I don't think the talent is in question here. I think a lot of people would agree that Kadarius Toney might be the most talented and most ready receiver on this Chiefs team at the moment. The glaring hole right there, and it's no secret, I mean, there's no elephant in the room here. Everyone knows this, is the availability. Can he be available from week one all the way to the end of the season? Even in his short time with Kansas City last year, while he did a great job picking up the offense very quickly, and Brett Veach noted that a few times in press conferences this offseason, availability was still an issue for Kadarius Toney, whether it was in New York, in Kansas City. But when he is on the field, he does a lot of great things. But again, we're saying when he's on the field, we have to preface that. Sky Moore. Okay, this is a very interesting name to me. I'm going to actually go ahead and lump in Rashee Rice and Sky Moore together here, and here's why. They're both recent second-round draft picks. Sky Moore was a second-round pick in last year's draft, a star-studded draft for the Chiefs last year. In fact, the last two drafts. And then this year, obviously, we don't know exactly how everyone's going to pan out, but still some optimism, given how Brett Veach has done the last two drafts. You got Rashee Rice in the second round of this year's draft. Second round picks are always very interesting to me because these are guys that probably could have been taken in the first round. You look at the second round of the 2021 draft and the players the Chiefs got there, Creed Humphrey and Nick Bolton, those are both first round draft picks. If you were to do one of those redo mock drafts that a lot of the media likes to do, for sure, you see Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. Well, actually Trey Smith also, but he wasn't a second round pick. I meant Creed Humphrey and Nick Bolton both be the first round picks. Second round picks are always intriguing to me because these are guys that could have been taken in the first round. So maybe they've got a bit of a chip on their shoulder. You look at Sky Moore, and I've seen some of the criticism on him and the fact that he didn't do much last year. Well, he was part of a very crowded receiver group to begin with. I mean, you had McCole Hardman, who knew the offense better than any receiver on the team last year. In fact, I think he was the only returning receiver on the team last year. You had Juju Smith-Schuster, who was pretty clear as your number one guy. MVS, who has a lot of experience coming in. I mean, Sky Moore was part of a very crowded receiver group to begin with. Oh, by the way, the number one pass catcher on the team is Travis Kelce. Not a receiver, obviously, but that will take away even more opportunities from Sky Moore to be able to contribute. But when Sky Moore did get involved, man, he did some good things on offense. And I'm very curious to see how he does when he gets more significant snaps. Now, the question I will say with him and even Rashee Rice, how much significant snaps will they get? Again, talent is not a question from me. To me, it's, if they do play a lot, could that be a bad thing? Could that mean that Kadarius Toney is dealing with injuries? Could that mean MVS is also dealing with injuries? Or maybe his performance goes down? Certainly not what I think anyone's expecting, but I don't know if Rashee Rice and Sky Moore are guys that are expected to get a lot of targets this year, considering who your projected starters are with Toney and Scantling. Justin Watson, a guy who's been around a few years in the NFL. Listen, I know he had that one game where he had two big drops. Oh, okay, that was one game, man. Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, they both, I think, were very close to co-leading the NFL in drops a couple of years ago on the same team. So, okay, you have one bad game. But when Justin Watson, when his number was called, he made some big catches for the Chiefs and helped them move the ball, not just, for 10, 15 yards. Some big catches there that helped the Chiefs move down the field. Richie James, this is a very interesting one, who the Chiefs signed from the New York Giants. He's got some speed, got some good abilities as a return man as well. I just don't know. Again, we're getting to the point now where we're starting to name too many receivers here. Cornell Powell, 5th round pick from 2021. Justin Ross, this is obviously the name that everybody is keeping a very close eye on for the upcoming preseason. Everyone wants to see how he does in training camp and in these preseason games. He has yet to play an NFL game. Had a lot of hype last year. I was a guest on Jody McDonald's radio show on CBS Sports Radio. And going into the season, one of the questions he asked me was, hey, how's Justin Ross doing? And I didn't have much of an answer for him other than, he's on IR, but the Chiefs are keeping an eye on him, and they really want him to stick around and give him another shot for the following year, which is now this year. So Justin Ross is somebody that, boy, there's a lot of hype behind him. There really is. I remember last year, the Chiefs social media team would put out some clips of him making some big plays. And listen, I don't really drool too much over those kinds of things because it's OTAs, man. You're going up against no defense, essentially. You're going up against air, right? But still, there's so much hype behind Justin Ross's name coming in. Another guy who isn't receiving as much hype, but still receiving some hype is John Ross. John Ross, oddly enough, was picked one selection before Patrick Mahomes in the 2017 NFL draft by the Bengals. Yes, the Bengals could have taken, both the Bengals and the Bills had a chance to take Patrick Mahomes, and they did it. And listen, I don't think they're losing sleep. I think they're in love with the quarterbacks they have, as they should be. It's just Patrick Mahomes has done far more than both of those guys combined. Then you got some other names here. Amir Smith-Marset, Jerrion Ealy, who was also running back for the Chiefs. I mentioned John Ross already. Ty Freifogel, Koa Crawford, and Nico Remigio. Listen, I'm just being realistic here. Those are a lot of names that some people just might not be too aware of here. By the way, wow, I'm just now looking at the comment section for the first time. Holy shit. I got some catching up to do. I'll definitely read some of you guys' comments shortly. Whatever you guys, by the way, if you guys agree, disagree with me, let me know your thoughts. Actually, I'll ask this question right now. And this might take a moment for some of you guys to type out here. How many receivers do you, by the way, let's exclude DeAndre. Actually, you know what? If you think Hopkins is going to join, fine. Mention him. So forget what I said. How many receivers do you think the Chiefs will carry into their 53-man roster? And who do you think those receivers are? I'll tell you right now who those receivers are. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be one guy. MVS, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice. We're already at 5 here. Okay. I mean, Rashee Rice, you're just not going to, he's a second-round pick. I know the Chiefs had a third-round pick, quarterback Kavai Russell a few years ago, who they let go, like week 4 or 5 into the season. I just don't think they're going to do that with a second-round receiver. 2 of them, Sky Moore from last year and Rashee Rice this year. I just don't think they let him go. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I can't see. Listen, I won't dismiss the possibility that he could be a surprise cut, but I think that is a very, very slim possibility. I just don't see the Chiefs letting him go. He is, they need his veteran presence. With so many young guys, KT, young dude, Sky Moore in his second season, Rice is a rookie. Justin Ross, technically last year, I guess was considered his rookie year. He missed out on it, but still a young guy who's yet to play in the NFL. So you need that veteran presence in MVS. So I'm already at 5 receivers. I'm saying Hopkins, MVS, Toney, Sky Moore, and Rashee Rice. So I think they're only going to have one more receiver. And I think that one more receiver is going to be Justin Ross. I think Cornell Powell, I think he got his first career catch in a game last year, or even his first snap in a game last year. I think you just, part ties with him and say, hey, it's time. We haven't seen too much out of you to keep you around any longer. Amir Smith-Marset, listen, and again, not a shot at any of these guys because they've all worked so hard to get to this point, but guys like Smith-Marset, Ealy, Freifogel, Crawford, Remigio. Remigio is an undrafted rookie here. I just don't know, like, what's the realistic possibility for these guys to make the 53-man roster, excluding injuries? If any of those guys I just named, Powell, Smith-Marset, Ross, John, actually John Ross I'll include on there. Freifogel, Ealy, Remigio, and Crawford. What is the realistic possibility that two of them make the roster. I'll even include Richie James there because I obviously did not mention his name amongst the six. I mean, either DeAndre Hopkins is not going to be in Kansas City, or I mean, there could be a mixture of possibilities here. Maybe you have some injuries in training camp or in preseason games. God forbid. Hopefully that does not happen. But I just don't know if those names I just mentioned as odd men out realistically have a shot outside of injuries, especially if the Chiefs do get Hopkins. If the Chiefs get Hopkins, boy, it just becomes a massive uphill battle for some of these guys here. I mean, listen, a guy like John Ross, this might honestly be his last opportunity in the NFL because his time with Cincinnati did not go very well. He's trying to make a name for himself here in Kansas City because he seems like he fits the system, and I won't dismiss the possibility that he could be a practice squad guy either. I think that could be something that we see for sure. Quentin thinks that D-Hop will be wearing red. Yeah, I certainly think so as well. Lance says, we don't need Hopkins, but I'm not going to complain. I would like some more depth on the defensive line. Yeah, the defensive line is very interesting because you've got Chris Jones obviously as the anchor in the middle of that defensive line. You got some really young guys too at the ends there with George Karlaftis coming off a strong rookie year, especially in the second half of the season. And then you got FAU, who a lot of people are excited to see, local kid from Kansas City, from Kansas State. So you've already got a nice story behind him there. You've also got Keandre Coburn, big dude. Taken late in this draft. Tershawn Wharton, he's made some significant plays in past preseasons, and I'm curious to see what he does this year to try to stick around. Derek Notty's been around for quite some time, since 2018. I didn't realize that until I started mentioning his name. He's been around for quite some time. Danny Shelton is a guy they brought in from the Giants. Super big dude. They brought in last year late in training camp, but stuck around with the team, and he's still here. So, with a guy like Colin Saunders moving on to New Orleans, I'm very curious to see if a guy like Danny Shelton can make some noise in the preseason. And don't forget about Josh Kendall, who they drafted in 2020. Some of the 2021 picks, like obviously you think of Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, and Noah Gray, but a lot of people forget about Cornell Powell and Josh Kendall because all those other guys I mentioned, and even Noah Gray, who did a good job filling in for Blake Bell for most of last year. Those are guys that don't get talked about much. Kendall and Powell, that is, because they are heavily overshadowed by the rest of that draft class. Let's see here. Going back to the comments. I like the tweet from Jones and D-Hop, hopefully. Oh, yeah, I think you're talking about the Instagram post where Chris Jones posted a photo of himself from the ESPYs, and Hopkins did the that emoji in the comments, and him and Chris Jones enjoyed a little talk there. Scott asks a really good question. What do you think the Chris Jones extension will be? Yeah, so Quentin Williams of the Jets got 4 years. What was it? 4 years, $96 million, I think. So for Jones, it's probably going to be 4 years, probably close to $100 million. That's what a lot of people think. That's probably what it's going to be. That still should be enough to free up some space for DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, I think he just needed the offseason to rest up. I think Tony had a good year this past year, I think you're referring to. Yeah, no, he did good when he was available. But again, when he was available, we have to always put that little disclaimer in there. And I don't want to do that with any player, especially KT. So I'm hoping that he does step up and have a better season for the Chiefs in terms of availability. Because if he does that, man, you got 1,000-yard receiver there, 1,000-yard receiver in Kelsey. You got possibly 1,000-yard rusher too in Pacheco. So, I mean, there's a lot of talent on this offense for sure. Now, I will say this: if DeAndre Hopkins does come, Does KT get those 1,000 yards? Assuming he stays healthy, I don't know. I just don't. Um, there is a possibility of that. I mean, look at Todd Haley's offense when he was in Arizona in his last year before becoming the Chiefs head coach. That offense, prolific offense with Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, Steve Breston, who eventually came over to Kansas City, they all caught for 1,000 yards that year from Kurt Warner. And listen, Kurt Warner, I mean, we all know about his career and everything he's done with St. Louis, greatest show on turf, right? And he's even compared Mahomes to that team, greatest show on turf. So, yeah, there is that possibility where we could see some of that greatest show type of offense here if they go pass heavy, which would probably mean opportunities taken away from Pacheco. But Andy Reid always finds a way to get running backs involved, even on the ground and through the air, too. Eric says, if you get Madden 24, you should play Ultimate Team. Yeah, I tried Ultimate Team several years ago on a different Madden when it first came out. It just didn't really appeal to me too much. Here's the thing. Madden's cool and all. The reason I don't play, the last Madden I got was the one with Mahomes on the cover, not the one that he shared with Brady, the one that's just by himself. I think that's 2019. Man, the thing that I hate so much about Madden is when you go up early, like 7-0, and then you get a turnover on the next drive, your opponent quits. It's like, dude, come on, man. I mean, listen, I'm not some great Madden player or anything, but I've managed to come back down 2 scores. It just kind of defeats the game when you play online and people are quitting. I'm not a big online player anymore. I mean, I think the only online game I play is Final Fantasy 14. So D-Hop will also free up number 87. Listen, a lot of people last year said that Travis Kelce was going to struggle immensely because Tyreek Hill was no longer on the team, and that this was going to lead to him facing a lot of double coverage because you can't double team both Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce at the same time. Well, with Tyreek Hill gone, now teams can focus more on doubling Kelce. That's what a lot of the critics said. That's not what I said. That's what the critics said. Obviously, that did not even come close to aging well. Let's see here. Some Madden talk in the comments. Call of Duty is trash. Appreciate it. Hydropia Farms. Call of Duty took a hard fall rather than remastering the Modern Warfare 2. Yeah, I did play that remaster. Wasn't a big fan. Okay, let's see here. You guys say 6 only. Eric says 6. Quentin says 5. Marcus thinks that Sky Moore will be better this year. Yeah, in terms of what, though? I'm not questioning his skill set. I'm just wondering, with MVS and KT as your projected starters, and then there's DeAndre Hopkins who's out there, possibly coming to Kansas City. What does that mean for Sky Moore and Rashee Rice? Are those guys going to get a lot of opportunities this season? Elaine says 6. Eric says Hopkins, MVS, Tony, Moore, Rice, and then one of the Rosses. Yeah, that makes sense. D-Hop, Rice, Moore, Tony, MVS. Oh, interesting. So no, neither Ross, Justin, or John. Yeah, I agree, Eric. I think those two are going to be battling for that last spot. Eric will always be in the live. What does that mean? Interesting, Anthony. Yeah. I disagree. I just think the Chiefs feel very highly about him, which, by the way, I never finished my thought about why the Chiefs needed Hopkins, or I think that they need Hopkins. To me, it's like, okay, well, let's just assume Hopkins does not come to Kansas City. How do you feel about your receivers? Because with guys like Kadarius Toney and Justin Ross, yeah, they've got some damn good potential, but you're also saying if they stay healthy. Sky Moore, again, potential with him. There's some uncertainty with him, not for the same reasons as KT and Ross, Justin Ross, that is, but more so we haven't seen Sky Moore contribute in a big manner from start to finish. Yeah, there were some receivers missing last year. McCall Hardman missed a lot of games. KT missed some games. Juju missed some games. But we just don't know what kind of a receiver Sky Moore will be, how productive he will be if he does play significant snaps. The amount of snaps that a starter would get. We just don't know exactly what kind of a player he'd be. Yeah, see, there are a couple people who think 7 could be the number. See, if you're doing that, you might need to take away a tight end. Who do you take away? I mean, obviously not Kelsey. So after him, Jody Fortson. There's been some hype behind Jody Fortson on social media among Chiefs fans, which I think is interesting. So I don't think it's Jody Fortson. Blake Bell, he did get hurt in the preseason, I think, or even before that. So the Chiefs ended up having Noah Gray do a lot of the things that Blake Bell did, such as the quarterback sneaks, which I know Patrick Mahomes has been wanting to do for a long time, and they haven't done it with him in forever, which, listen, I've gone over this before. I think it's silly. It was one freak accident. He had already been dealing with injuries so much going into that game on a short week. It was one damn freak accident. Come on. Like, you're paying the guy that much money and he can't run a quarter. In the history of the sport, how many times has a quarterback gotten injured on a quarterback sneak? And I know people are saying, oh, well, you don't want to risk the injury. Risk what, man? It's not like linebackers are coming 100 miles an hour charging at you in a dog pile there. Yeah, I mean, they're just not. I'm excited for him, Quentin. I am. I'm excited to see what FAU is going to do. That was one of the names I really wanted the Chiefs to take. There was also another kid from KC, the Northwestern kid. The pronunciation of his name escapes my mind right now. He ended up going a lot later than I thought he was going to go. But yeah, I'm really curious to see what that defensive line. See, kind of like the wide receivers, like Sky Moore. If he doesn't contribute a lot, it's not because he's bad, it's because there are a lot of people on this receiver room right now. Same thing with the defensive ends, like the entire defensive line, I should say. Obviously Chris Jones is going to get double-digit sacks if he plays all year long, no injuries meaning. But Karlaftis, I think he can get to double-digit sacks as well. If you got 2 guys in double-digit sacks, it's just going to be too hard for a third guy. But hey, quarterback pressures, those are key stats also. We don't see them a lot on the ESPNs or the NFL.coms out there, but QB pressures can still do a lot for you. That certainly can force ill-advised passes also. If we keep 8, we'll have to stay low and depth ends and corners. Yeah, I don't think there's a possibility you keep 8. On the main roster. You'll keep a couple on the practice squad for sure. Like John Ross, I think is for sure going to be on the practice squad if he doesn't get hurt. Yeah, me too, Elaine. I've been talking about Isaiah Pacheco for a while now. I mentioned him last offseason. For him to score in that first game, was a great way to start things off. And listen, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, nothing against him. I think he's a solid running back. Nothing more, nothing less. He'll have some great games here and there. He's had some big 100-yard games, but for a first round selection, he's just not living up to that first round status. And I think this is going to be his last opportunity as a Chief. And I think Isaiah Pacheco is the guy that's gonna move on and try to be that primary guy at running back for the Chiefs, as with Jerick McKinnon also being a good 1-2, serving as a good backup for a 1-2 punch, and continuing to do what he did last year, especially through the air. That helped him get Offensive Player of the Month for the last year of the regular season. Do you think the Chiefs will be more of a balanced attack this year? Yeah, it's a really good question, Quentin. With I'd like to say yes, and I know there were some games last year and the year before where people in postgame were asking me, why the hell is Andy Reid not running the ball? It's just not his MO. Listen, I've said this so many times, and I'm sure I'll say it again many more times. Look at the running backs Andy Reid's had: Brian Westbrook, LaShawn McCoy, Jamal Charles, Kareem Hunt. 4 really great running backs there. All did well in their times in Philadelphia and in Kansas City. Listen, I know there people. I think the whole thing with Andy Reid being pass heavy gets blown out of proportion a bit. It's not like he doesn't run the ball ever. He does, just maybe not as much. Now look at what year was it? I think 2018 when the Chiefs had Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt. They were all top 5, maybe even top 3 at their positions. Mahomes was the best quarterback that year. Kareem Hunt, before his release, before that video came out, he was maybe the best running back behind Todd Gurley that year. Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, both pass catchers dominating on the same team. Jason Dunn and I had a conversation about this. I think it was in 2021 where Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill were numbers 2 and 3 at one point in December in receiving yards. When does that happen? When do you see 2 pass catchers on the same team be in the top 3 in receiving yards? That just doesn't happen. And keep in mind, Sammy Watkins, I know his availability was not ideal, but he still got involved quite a bit too. And even so, Hill and Kelce were still dominating and getting so many of the numbers there. So, to answer that question, Quentin, I don't know if it's going to be balanced. If there was ever a time in Andy Reid's coaching career where he might test that out, I suppose this could be that year, because Isaiah Pacheco, man, that dude, we didn't see his speed. We didn't see him showcase that speed so much last year, but he does possess great speed. What we did see was some damn good toughness there. Like, this guy is fucking tough, man. Who was the guy that complained about the field from the Eagles? He's now with the Lions. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was the guy who delivered that big hit to Isaiah Pacheco on that final drive of the Super Bowl. And if Isaiah Pacheco fumbles that ball, man, the Eagles might be able to do what the Chiefs tried to do, which is eat up the clock and win the game. A lot of running backs, even some of the best ones, they might have coughed that up. I mean, that was a fucking hard hit from C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And Isaiah Pacheco held onto the ball. And not only that, he went out for a play, and then he came back out a play later. Like, this dude is really, really tough. I mean, Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson, like, those guys were great. Kareem Hunt, great. Jamal Charles, great. But when I think of those running backs, I just don't know if I use the word tough to describe those running backs. Isaiah Pacheco is a tough dude. He really is. I don't know if Andy Reid's ever had a running back whose toughness was probably the biggest strength. Again, Andy Reid's had a lot of great running backs. This is not anything up for discussion here. But all those running backs he's had in his career, none of them, like, toughness is not a word you bring up immediately when you think of McCoy, Westbrook, Charles, and Kareem Hunt. I think so, Danny. Yeah, I think DeAndre Hopkins is on his way. Gus Johnson, best in answer. Yeah, I remember when he made that running from cop speed. I think who was that? Was that Chris Johnson running the ball for the Titans? Man, the Titans have had some really good running backs over the years. I just kind of realized that. Yeah, man, Gus Johnson. Where is Gus Johnson? Is he back on CBS? Because I know he went to Fox for a bit. Yeah, I think he did come back to CBS. I agree, man. Gus Johnson, in my opinion, is the best play-by-play broadcaster out there. Like, the guy, the excitement he brings on the mic, like this is a fan on a microphone, but he does it in a professional manner. I've always been a big fan of Gus Johnson. Yeah, I think so. If you're in the Kansas City area, go to good old Hollywood Casino. Go make that bet. Go make that bet. Yeah, I just don't know Rashee Rice, what kind of a rookie season he's going to have, though. I'm just not sure because this is a very crowded. This is a very crowded pass catching room. I'm including tight ends in this because listen, a lot of second round wide receivers out there are probably going to get significant playing time. I doubt Rashee Rice will. The only way is if there are a lot of injuries at that position, and that is not anything anyone wants to hear about. So you think Blake Bell could be the odd man out, Eric? Man, I don't know, man. I disagree. I think Blake Bell. First of all, I know there's all this talk about with the NFL now allowing 3 quarterbacks. So I don't know if this is really going to be a thing as much now because you can carry a third quarterback, which is why they still have Shane Buechele and they signed Blaine Gabbert in the offseason. But Blake Bell has always been that emergency quarterback because he has that experience at Oklahoma. Plus, I think, with Andy Reid's creativity. Okay, so I think a great time to bring this up. When Blake Bell was on the team in 2019, the year the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, my biggest complaint with Blake Bell's usage to Andy Reid was Andy Reid's such a creative guy, and we're not using Blake Bell in ways that we should. When Blake Bell came back to Kansas City, Andy Reid did a far better job of using him the second time around. And I'm glad Blake Bell's still on the team. I don't want to see him go, but you can't keep everybody either. That's there's going to be a solid name that is going to get let go after training camp, especially if Hopkins signs. You're going to see, because look, I've seen it on Twitter and on the Facebook page. There are a lot of Chiefs fans who are excited about Justin Ross, KT, Rashee Rice, Sky Moore. Some are really hoping that John Ross gets an opportunity. And Jody Fortson's getting some talk from Chiefs fans online. Noah Gray as well. But what's the reality is, you're not going to keep all those guys. I mean, unless you want to go really thin on offensive line when you have a franchise quarterback, that's a horrible idea. You're gonna lose some guys here that you just don't want to lose. That interception versus the Bengals in the AFC Championship loss to end the game. Which interception? Joe Burrow threw 2 picks in that game to rookies. And I know Bengals fans love to lean on the fact that they had 3 offensive linemen missing, even though they all came on my page and told me the week of the game that it's not going to matter. But somehow after the fact, it matters. It's always interesting to me. But Joe Burrow threw 2 picks. Jalen Watson with a phenomenal adjustment to jump up and swipe that pass that I think was going to Jamar Chase or Higgins. I can't remember who it was going to. But just a fantastic job by Jalen Watson. And then a rookie duo here, the second interception, Cook tipped the pass, and Josh Williams came up with the interception, which really helped turn things around. I think you're referring to that one, Eric. Boltek, I think the Chiefs have a top 10 defense this year. A year ago today, my biggest concern with the Chiefs defense was that secondary, especially the cornerback position. We talked about this on the podcast on Wednesday, but my God, I was scared to death with the quarterbacks. I said they're going to get burned a lot. The learning curve is going to be a tough one. There's hardly a veteran presence here and far more rookies. Not ideal. And I kind of questioned what the Chiefs were doing. Like, my only criticism of Brett Veach was you drafted way too many cornerbacks to the point where there's hardly a veteran, leadership here. Yeah, you had Rashad Fenton, traded him away, and then L'Jarius Sneed. Dude, that quarterback position panned out so well. Really, really, really well. I'm excited to see what those cornerbacks do going from rookies to their second seasons. There are some really good names there, man. That's going to be a very exciting position group to watch. The lack of talent at the tackle positions, I blame for Pacheco not being able to showcase his speed. Yeah, I gotta understand. Listen, Orlando Brown, far better run blocker than a pass blocker. But again, like, that is hardly relevant when you're on a pass heavy team. I should say a pass heavy league, but you're on a team that throws the ball far more because, look, your quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we don't need to dive into the details as to why you do that. Remember the game when Priest Holmes and Derek Blaylock each had 4 rushing touchdowns against the Michael Vick? Yes, I do. That was also the number 1 rush defense in the NFL that they did that against, man. That was, and you mentioned Derek Blaylock too, who is doing some really good things out there on showing off his gym. That I think there's a Chiefs player training there. I can't remember which player it was. I posted about it, but I don't have that name off the top of my head. But yeah, the Chiefs got really lucky because Priest Holmes dealt with some injuries. Then you had Derek Blaylock, who stepped up. You had Larry Johnson. Listen, in my opinion, I think Larry Johnson, in terms of back-to-back season performances, the best of any player in Chiefs history. I know things did not end well with him, but those 2 seasons, what was it? 05 and 06. Like 04 was kind of that quiet rise of LJ, but in 05 and 06, man, he just unleashed. And that's why I think so many people, have that bitterness against him because of his poor play, going from the best to nearly the worst, and then his behavior on and off the field. But man, the Chiefs were fortunate, though. Had some really good running backs at the time, for sure. Yeah, Chris Johnson was the guy I was thinking of. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of his too. I mean, I'm a big fan. I think so, Casey Blitz. I think it's going to happen. Saturday, Chris Jones extension followed by a Monday D-Hop signing would really be a cherry on 2023, Thomas says. Yeah, we haven't necessarily talked about the timing of when Chris Jones could possibly sign that extension. A lot of people were thrilled with the fact that he thanked Brett Veach in that SB speech. Not really a speech per se, but a lot of people loved hearing that. They did. So hopefully that's a good sign. People always like to look at those kinds of things for a glimmer of hope. Because it is weird that he didn't show up for the mandatory practices and didn't attend the ring ceremony. I know he said he was sick, but I don't know, man. And listen, I'm not here to call him a liar. It's just, at some point, all of that maybe is going to be too much of a coincidence. You believe Shane Buechele will be a Bronco in the future? He's got something. I mean, I think Shane Buechele's got a good skill set, but man, isn't Denver the place where quarterbacks go to die? I mean, even look at Russell Wilson. Like, if that does not work out, dude, you got to go. I mean, find a way to adjust that salary cap. Let him go. By the way, thank you guys so much for all the comments here. I was not expecting this much audience participation. Certainly not expecting so many viewers. I was thinking I'd be done 20 minutes ago because we're in the off season. So thank you guys. This has been awesome. We'll go for about 10 more minutes. But yeah, man, I mean, for Shane Buechele's sake, I hope he goes somewhere else. Maybe a place where Eric Bieniemy is. I think that'd be really cool. Yeah, bud. I get what you're saying. Someone's got to go. If you sign DeAndre Hopkins, how many receivers do you want? Because that is a very crowded receiver room right now. They're not top tier guys. They can be. We all hear about the potential with Justin Ross and Kadarius Toney and even Sky Moore. I know Sky Moore does not have the injury concerns that the other guys have right now, but Man, if you really don't want to lose even John Ross, we could be talking about 7 receivers. That would be a lot. So yeah, someone might need to go. Couple people, in fact. I agree. Quentin. Snead's had a bit of a weird career. His rookie year, awesome. The only knock on him was his availability. Missed some games due to injuries. Second year, he took a big step back. He allowed, I think, like the second or third most catches among cornerbacks in the NFL. And I know he was dealing with some of his brother that year. So he took some time off for that. He missed a couple of games because of that, which is totally understandable. But last year, I thought was a big turnaround for him. The thing about these Chiefs cornerbacks is they don't shine statistically. If you need to know why they're good, the eye test is the answer there. That's why I'm hoping with the addition of FAU and George Karlaftis with a year of experience under his belt, and you've obviously got that big guy right there named Chris Jones. I think that defensive line can do some things this year where they can either get a lot of sacks, or still get sacks also, and even force some ill-advised passes. And that'll be a great opportunity for the Chiefs to maybe improve on some of those interception numbers. Let me quickly see ESPN team stats. Where did the Chiefs rank in interceptions? Because it just feels like maybe they were higher. Bear with me one moment here. Defense turnovers. So the Chiefs, in terms of let's just do total takeaways first. They had 20, so just I was gonna say below average. How many interceptions did they get? 11. Again, that's below average. For reference, the Steelers and the Niners co-led the league in interceptions with 20. The Patriots with 19. The Bills and Packers and Eagles all had 17. I'd like to see the Chiefs improve on that interception number. And I think with adding FAU, my only criticism of Brett Veach with last year's draft, too many cornerbacks and only one defensive lineman. I was going to say pass rusher, but only one defensive lineman. This year, though, the Chiefs attacked that defensive line group a little bit more than they did with the secondary. So secondary, man, it seems like you're set for a couple of years there. Not to say they won't add anybody in the future. Yeah, you might need to add someone here and there, depending on injuries, maybe unexpected poor play from some people. So yeah, I'd be very curious to see if that interception number can go up this year. Here they're talking about a draft pick at running back is supposed to be special. Who's they, Bob? And who are they referring to? I'm curious as to what you're referring to there. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm excited for year 2 of Pacheco. I really am. I mean, the dude did some damn good things. Even as a kick returner, had a couple of nice, solid returns there. Now, we saw what the Chiefs did with Tyreek Hill, who was a phenomenal return specialist, but the more he was getting involved in his role as a number one receiver, the further and further away he went from special teams duties. So I don't know how much we're going to see Pacheco handle return duties. Maybe he still does. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of him on offense, and that I'm very excited about. Yeah, I don't think the 2 signings happen this weekend either. I think Hopkins is going to wait it out. Even if the Chiefs like if the Chiefs sign Chris Jones right here, right now, get that cap room they need, I still think Hopkins is going to wait it out because let's be honest, man, you're in your 30s. You're at that point where maybe you want to skip some of that training camp. Pat McAfee mentioned on his show, it's like, do you really want to be there in those dorm room beds and go through, assistants knocking on your door, making sure you're in good old bed like you're a kid or something? Um, how old is DeAndre Hopkins? 31. Okay, yeah, because I mentioned he was in his 30s. I just wanted to make sure I had that right. Corner blitzes, yeah, he's good at that for sure. And I think that was kind of a criticism of the Chiefs, is that their sack total, which was second in the NFL behind the Eagles, the one criticism was that they're blitzing to get to the quarterback. And I know Colin Saunders went at it with some Chiefs fans online, and it's like, if you're getting to the quarterback, why does it matter too much? Well, you still want your defensive lineman to kick some ass and not get so much help from the corners. And listen, you run a big risk when you do those corner blitzes, right? Because if your backfield is not where they need to be, that could really burn you. It's kind of like on offense when you have a trick play and your quarterback is not the quarterback, he lines up as a receiver. Well, you're now taking away a realistic receiver. Not to say, I mean, I know there's this talk about Mahomes possibly catching a touchdown, but it's just so hard to do with, you're one less receiver there, and it could really backfire if things don't go the way you want it to go. Yeah, I know Spags, man. Like, my biggest criticism of Spags would be the consistency, and specifically the 2-minute defense. I think the 2-minute defense could have been way better last year, for sure. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it, man. You've been around a while. Some of you guys have been around. Some of you guys are new guys this offseason, and that's great. I love it, man. That's awesome. Chiefs fans are fans even in the offseason. Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't they be? But Casey Wolf and the cheerleaders came to the new Wichita Shield store. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that's where they had the trophy tour at that Shield store. I did hear about that. I love Shields, man. That's a good place to get your sports related gear. Yeah, that's a great point there. I don't know if the Chiefs will be able to do it at that level. I mean, they could. They have I think they've got the talent for it. But someone was mentioning earlier, not much of a veteran presence. You got more young guys at those defensive end positions. So, we'll see. I think Karlaftis is going to have a very good season. I think Chris Jones, he's going to continue doing his thing. Karlaftis got off to a really, really slow start last year, and I think his play really evolved and got better and better as the season went on. I posted the graphic a couple of times. I think it's a good chance to do it again, where the first 10 games, I think he had just one sack or half a sack. And the last 10 games, including the playoffs, boy, the guy was a much different guy. I think he had a sack in every game except for one. A 3-punch. Yeah, I don't know. Because with all you have, I don't know if I agree with a 3-punch, Eric, because you're already going to use Pacheco and McKinnon. We know that. And then we already talked about the pass catchers. The bulk of this podcast, well, not podcast, but live stream tonight has been the pass catchers and how there's so many, and that there might be a lot of just a lot of people out there that the Chiefs are going to use an offense. I don't know if you got really room for a third guy. I mean, there might be someone in there that gets a couple of snaps per game, but probably not used as much at that third running back. Who could the third running back be? Pacheco, McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Oh, kind of forgot about him. Whoops. Yeah, Prince. You guys were talking about Prince. Yeah. That'll be interesting, man. I think the Chiefs will only take 3, especially with the crowded receiver room you've got, which is what we've been talking about for a while. Appreciate it, man. All right. For those of you who are watching live, thank you. For those of you watching the archived version of this, Appreciate it. By the way, sometimes people will watch the archived video and they're going to say, hey, why are you not answering my question? Look up here, somewhere up here. If it says live, that means you're watching this live. If there is not a red text box that says live, if that does not exist when you're watching the video, that means you're watching an archived version of this video. So we stream this live at 7 o'clock Central Time, a little after 7, and it's 8 o'clock now. So we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Hey, again, big thank you to all of you who joined. This first Red Friday live chat was a bigger than I thought it was going to be. So I really appreciate it. If you guys haven't had a chance already, go to SeatGeek.com. If you're a first-time customer, go use my promo code Farzine for $20 off. And if you want, go to Manscaped. They got some great products there. Check them out. Use my promo code Farzine20 for 20% off and free shipping at checkout over at Manscaped.com. So a big shout out to our sponsors. I appreciate those guys hopping on and getting behind the Chiefs Zone and this Facebook page. So make sure you guys go support those two, SeatGeek and Manscaped, and use those promo codes Farzine for SeatGeek, and that's for first-time customers only, and then Farzine20 over at Manscaped.com. One last request from you guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the podcast. If you go to Apple, Spotify, Google, just search my name or search the Chief Zone. It should be the first one that pops up. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Chief Zone's YouTube page. Started that up very recently. It's fairly new. Already got some subscribers on there. So big thanks to all of you who have subscribed so far. If you haven't done so already, please go subscribe to that YouTube channel. We're going to start using that a lot very soon. All right. Appreciate all of you guys joining me tonight. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. I will talk to you guys later. Take care.